Welcome back. It's so good to see you here. Years ago, I met Jessica Malone, and I instantly knew we were going to be great friends. Jessica is a portrait photographer in Ohio, and her approach to boudoir and self-portraits and fine art really sets her work apart. There's something about her that makes you instantly comfortable, and it's her power to connect that allows her business to thrive. Over the years, as we've gotten to know each other better, I'm amazed at how similar our stories are, from our backgrounds to our locations to how we make decisions every day. You know, working in a small town of about 1,000 people, it's hard to find other photographers that can really relate to having a studio in such a rural area. But Jessica and I hit it off because she's from a small town in Ohio that parallels exactly where I am here in Maine, with the farms and the rural culture and the challenges that only people here can face. So in this conversation, we talk about the luxury business in a small town. We talk about her tarot card project and what she's created around that, and the idea of identity and how we relate it to our business. At every turn, I felt like I was talking to someone I had known my entire life, and I know she's going to make you feel the same way. So let's get started with episode 29 of Generator, which I'm calling You Are So Much More Than Your Identity, with my guest, Jessica Malone. How was your return from WPPI?
It was good. I feel like there's always that post-conference, I don't want to call it a lag or it's like this recovery processing period. So there was definitely that to kind of take it in, but it was good. Every time I get to see all my people and be around, that community, it just, kind of gives you a little boost. So it was good. Tiring, but in the best way.
I find that time works differently in Las Vegas than it does in the rest of the universe, where you start out, you arrive on Saturday or Sunday, and you're like, I've got the whole week ahead of me. I've got so much time here. And then the next thing you know, you're like, I'm checking out. I have no idea where the week went. I can't find most of my socks. I have no money left, and I'm dehydrated. What happened in the past couple of days? But I feel like that's it every year. One of the funny parts I remember from this year was just meeting up with you and walking across the street to get supplies that we didn't have to buy at the hotel. And I think that little conversation we had between the hotel and Walgreens and then back was one of the best conversations of the week because of how real it was. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. And thank you. It was one of the best conversations just because I feel like we got to actually be present and, it kind of stepping away. Like, it's great. It's an inspiring place to be. But I think definitely the little side conversations and the little side meetings are like where it happens. That was the most I actually saw of Vegas, was that little trip to Walgreens with you. I'm the worst Vegas visitor ever.
Like I said, I'm glad we got a chance to kind of link up there. We never get a chance to, at least I never get a chance to leave my tiny little town, and you're at a very similar place, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Gallipolis?
That's okay. Gallipolis.
Gallipolis. I can't say it like a native.
I don't say it like a native. If I was a native, I would call it Gallipolis and get that extra little bouginess on the end. But I don't. I call it Gallipolis. So they know I'm an import immediately. But, I don't think anybody pronounces it correctly, so don't feel bad.
You're technically Ohio, but you're basically West Virginia, right?
Yes. I can see West Virginia from my house. Yeah, we're right on the river. It's really cool. It's very beautiful. I feel like West Virginia is an underrated place. A lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people travel there, but it's really beautiful. And people are actually very, very nice. It's not like the stereotypes I think that you get in some places. Like I've lived in a holler before, not a hollow, a holler. There's a difference. I can't really judge because it's all kind of the same area down here, but it really is an underrated place, I believe.
With it being a small town, I know you and I have talked for a lot of years about the fact that we have kind of a similar place that we live, and we do similar things with studios and photography, and how hard it can be in a small town. Now, over the past week here in my 1,000-person town, we have a chamber of commerce. and both the executive director and her second in command were let go this week. Circumstances are all very nefarious, and no one really knows the right story, so it's all very hush-hush. And in a small town, like that should last about another 48 hours, and then everybody will know everybody's business. Without a chamber of commerce in a small town like this, businesses are kind of left on their own to do whatever it is that they do without a whole lot of guidance. What do you find in your area? Do businesses come together? Is there a chamber of commerce? Like, how does your studio do what you do in a small town and succeed? Do you need the help of others, or do you basically do it all yourself and hope for the best?
So that's a great question, because that's something that's actually been on my mind a lot lately, is should I be getting more involved with groups like the Chamber? We do have one here. I don't think they're very active. Like, they exist and they help out in some areas and in some industries that I think maybe are more long-standing, you know, your insurance agencies, real estate, some things like that. But it's not something that I think I've really collaborated with. I mean, you know, we don't have a lot of groups like that. And I think that's something that is maybe more unique to small areas, are that, you know, we don't have as many networking opportunities. Maybe some areas are different. I don't know. But you are describing that's similar to mine. I mean, they exist, but we've had kind of scandals like that in the past as well. And you're right. It's kind of hush-hush, and then it just kind of blows up and everyone knows about it, and then they get over it. But I think that we could work together more. I have partnered with some businesses in the past, but I feel sometimes kind of like I'm like the sole little... Like, they exist in one world in one kind of business, and I exist in another. And I don't mean that by industry. I maybe mean that more in a bit of mindset.
In small areas like where you and I live, there's typically one photo studio, one hardware store. There's only so many places to go for specific services. Whereas at a big city, you have huge choices. So for us here, where I am in Maine, you have really one of any individual type of business. The good and bad part of that is, you know who the hardware store is, you know who the photographer is, right? But at the same time, you fall into this trap of, well, I'm the only one, therefore people should know I exist. Why am I not getting any customers?
That's so true, yeah.
But marketing is marketing, right? You've got to do it no matter where you are. A lot of places rely on chambers to do that. I think we find in the smaller places that it's left to our own devices to whether we succeed or fail, and we can't depend on anybody else.
I feel like smaller, less populated areas are a little bit behind on maybe some of the trends, obviously. I know Columbus actually has like Cincinnati's got a great art scene too, but Columbus is like the art place, right? And they have like these creative spaces, and they have the CCAD there. So they have like the art schools, and they have shared common spaces. Like, you can go and share a studio with 10 other artists. And so they have a lot of communities like that. And I just don't think that we've caught up with that. And just like you said, we have that, like, well, there's the photographer, like that box is checked, like that need is filled. So sometimes it like serves as almost like a block in your mind. Like, why should I do this? Because that person already exists, or they already have the studio front. A lot of the businesses that the Chamber serves, at least in my area, I don't want to like generalize I know we're all different, all places are different, but I think it's the businesses that they cater to because they're so traditional. Like, we're not like a 9-to-5 type of people. Right. We don't go in and like punch the ticket, like work in our office and then go home 5 days a week. And I know that mindset or business mentality or business philosophy, however you want to look at it, like the anti-hustle, and like it's more of like how creatives operate in general, not just photographers. I think other areas are catching on to that and providing more structure and more opportunities for those to exist. Whereas like our chambers are like, if you're not wearing a suit and tie, if you don't have an office, if you're not in, accounting, insurance, real estate, like the typical professions, right? But I think there's like an old school and kind of a new school in many ways. And the traditional networking areas, such as the Chamber, maybe even a BNI or so, we don't even have a BNI here, aren't the best for me.
Let me back out a little bit and just talk about the mindset, which you had mentioned before. There is this strange set of emotions that goes along with being a photographer in any level of city. There is this internal competition that you feel against all the other photographers out there. There's this constant comparison that you're making between your work and theirs, between your pricing and theirs, between your clients and theirs. It takes a lot of fortitude to kind of look past all of that ego and really just focus on what it is that you wanted to do. I've noticed that with your art specifically over the past many years, that I've seen you always following what it is that you want to do rather than falling into trends. As I look at your site, there's Boudoir and 40 over 40 and the Tarot series and all the other fine artwork that you do. Do you feel like this is reflective of just you and following your passions? Or do you feel like you have to create all those things to get the widest base of customers?
No, that's a really good question. And I think I fluctuate in there because one, I sometimes I feel like I have to test it out, because like with the 40 over 40, when I first started that campaign, I was like, oh, I don't know. I had all these like fears and blocks, like I couldn't do something like this, or would people see the value in it? So I tested it out. And even when I wasn't sure of myself, those times that like, we have moments of doubt, right? But the response I was getting from people, and it was sometimes they were even telling me, like my clients, when they would talk about the shoot or their experience, they were telling me things that I didn't see myself, or that like I thought maybe I could do, but I wasn't sure if I was doing for them, just like holding space or giving them this way of seeing themselves differently if they needed that. And just like all like the deeper things, not just a pretty picture, right? Like the deeper side of that. And their response back was so like, oh yes, they do feel seen, and they do feel valued, and they feel more beautiful and powerful and confident and all the things. And then so it was like, yes, that's for me, and I'd go with it. But like, I'll be honest, something like branding, like that's something I feel like I offer because I have to have that base. And I don't know if it's something that I don't actually love, or is it something I haven't found my way in that field yet? Because like there's the field, but then there's your way of doing it too. Like we've seen with, like the whole revolution in the boudoir industry and some of these great speakers and instructors we have there that are just totally changing, what boudoir looks like now versus 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. I think branding's the only one I'm offering that I feel like I have to, that I feel a little odds, and I don't sell a lot of it. Maybe it's because I feel at odds with it. I've been doing this for a while, and I've burnt myself out several times. Like I've been a photographer for over a decade now. Like I was shoot and burn for the first half, not really just doing it as a pure side hustle, not really caring to like improve my business or do things the right way or even improve myself as an artist. So because of that, like burnout, finding myself again, burnout, that cycle a few times, I've learned that like it's kind of a waste of time. Like if you're not, you either have to turn it into something that's yours or like just let it go. So with the Tarot series, my way of doing boudoir, that's something, yeah. The Tarot series was something I was kind of nervous about, honestly, because I didn't know how it would be received, but we're having a lot of fun with it, and people are really liking it too, to be a part of it. But
so for those that don't know about it, the Tarot series is a mix of campaign and personal project. I'm trying to understand how you're doing it, because I remember when you first announced that you were going to be doing the Tarot series, and I was super stoked about this because I know how creative that you can get and your love for the Tarot and just everything that goes into it creatively, then incorporating all your different clients into it, getting paid for it. Tell me how this whole thing came about.
Yeah, so that's been really interesting because, yeah, it is like a part campaign. It is part like just a fine art project. And then we're producing a deck at the end. And we're doing it as a very like creative, conceptual type of project, like just the nature of it. But I'm doing it with real clients, not people who are professional models. Or a lot of the cases, they're just like, they're kind of interested in tarot. Like they've always heard about it, but now they're like kind of getting into it. So it's fun, but it's been a great learning experience. How it's been done has kind of like evolved over the project because, yeah, I've just never done anything like that before. Like when we run other campaigns, we do like, okay, you can pick your images. But a lot of times with this work, they can't see that final, product that's going to be done because there might be some Photoshop, and it's hard for them to see what I'm envisioning for it. So that right there has been a process in getting people in, but it is definitely a blend of like our traditional campaigns, like how we might run them with like a fine art project.
Now, do you do a reading and choose their cards and that's what they get? Or are they coming in knowing what they want? Or do you have a pre-picked, hey, you're going to be, this card, these 3 cards? Like, how does that work? How do you personalize it for each individual?
A little bit of all of that. So if I allow people to pick one, if they have one request, like one that they're really drawn to, they are allowed to request that if it's not been taken yet. So once a card's been done, it's taken out of the deck for this particular project. Now, I do allow, if somebody really wanted to do one that's already been done, of course, I'm going to style that and they can buy that print and we could, turn that into wall art or something. But as far as being part of the official project, some people don't have a preference. So we do the universe decides. Everyone has to do 3 looks. Just because I'm bad at math and I've divided it by 3. And if you don't do 3, it will throw the whole thing off. I know, I need like 27 people. Everybody does 3 cards and it's going to work out evenly. So there's that. And then sometimes I have people like in mind that there is a few people that I've asked to do it and I've invited just because I've thought they would play a really good, they've got that energy or if they've just got that look. So it's been a little bit of all the above, but I've never picked all 3 cards for somebody. Like I might be like, okay, you'd make a good devil. Like, so let's draw the other 2 to see what the other 2 would be like. So most people though, I thought everybody would want to pick. Most people have wanted me to draw for them, which that's been interesting too, because I might get someone like, my 65-year-old local nutritionist draw something that's like, a little more crazy. So it's been a fun challenge. But yeah, that's how we've been doing it. We draw them. If they have something they really are drawn to and resonate with, then I let them pick. But mostly it's been universe decides.
What's been the most challenging so far? Which one did you not expect to be like blow you away the way that it did? Like where just everything came together. Has there been one standout moment in what you've shot so far?
So I did like the tower card. The tower was pretty cool. If there's more than one person in the card, you have to play all the characters. You have to be all the people in the card. You don't bring someone else with you to do it. So the tower are 2 individuals falling from a tower that's on fire. And so we actually shot all the components here. Like the brick of the tower is actually this brick you see behind me, only on the outside of the building. And so that one was really cool. My 10 of Pentacles card turned out really well because I actually created the pinnacles out of embroidery hoops and we put them all in. And that was one I was like, because the actual card is like an old man looking in a garden of like kids and dogs playing. And I'm like, so some things I can do like, I kind of stick to this traditional theme, and some things it's like I have to just do my own thing with this one. But the hardest one so far, I think, has been the World card because it's a naked woman floating in the sky with like a wreath, and then there's like all of this stuff. So that one was probably the most challenging so far.
Now, you're going to have a deck at the end of this. Is there going to be a magazine? Are there going to be posters? Is there a book tour planned? Like, what's the...
Okay, so the deck. For sure. We will have, the book is going to be in 2 different styles. Well, 3 if you count the digital format, because most traditionally tarot decks come with a little instructional booklet or like the little meanings book. And I'm not going to do that just because I don't want to. Lots of reasons I don't want to. When you get the deck, the plan is to have like a QR code on there that you can scan, and that will take you to the PDF version because I want like all the artwork to be as prominent as possible. The PDF will also be available. Like if you wanted to upgrade and buy like the coffee table art book or something like that, there's several components to it. I'm including a magazine version for all the participants who are in it. So they get a slightly upgraded version of the book, but not like if they want the coffee table book. So yes, there is a book. The meanings are stuff that I've written. I didn't mean for it to go this far. It's just kind of like snowballed over the past couple years. But before I started the project, how it actually got started was my own tarot journals. So in the morning, one of my morning daily rituals is I'll pull 3 cards. And, you know, I have different sources that you find meanings from, like all kinds of books, YouTube channels, TikTok people. And like, you just find people that you kind of vibe with. So I had done this for a few years and pretty consistently, and I have all of my books, which is really cool to go back and you can kind of see these patterns, because you can go through like phases, like months at a time, and never draw certain cards, and you'll just see the same cards repeating and repeating and repeating. And then you can tell when something's happened, because then you'll get a whole new pattern. And I mean, you can look back and you don't see it as it's happening. You can only really see it in hindsight, which is so fascinating. And I would kind of like listen to this person on YouTube, or I'd be like really into this book for a few months. So like the meanings, and I'd be listening. So I'd have to like kind of copy in my own words. Right. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'll put this in a document, like actually transcribe. So I started going through my journals and putting it all in a Google Doc, just because it made it easier for myself, because now I kind of liked my own meanings better than the people that I was listening to, because they were just like little cherry picked and based from my own experience. So that's the book that's going to go with it. So that's why I was like, oh, I could see this kind of being a book on the tarot and how to interpret it. And so why not kind of make my own imagery to go with it? And then why not get paid to do it? So that's just kind of how it evolved, really.
I love this project. How far through it are you, percentage wise? You halfway done? Are you 10%?
I'm about halfway done. So like the evolution, I was talking about how we offer it like as a business, like from the business side of things has like evolved. And I kind of go through my phases where I feel, okay, I've got it. Like this is going to work. And then I'll just do like, you know, Blitz marketing. And that's all you see is like the tarot project. And then I'll feel like I'll run into like maybe some kinks or something that I need to fix. And then I just kind of like not market it as much. So I'm hoping it'll gain more momentum so we can just get it finished and get it done and just see it and move on, you know?
Yeah, I can't wait for that day. I know there's probably going to be some level of bittersweet love and hate on that last shutter click where you know this is the last card that you're shooting and that the project's coming to an end, but it's got to feel amazing to have all of this huge body of work behind you in addition to everything else that you're shooting. It's going to be just such an amazing day. I can't wait to see this book.
It's definitely a roller coaster, because I mean, I'm sure as an artist, like you kind of go through that period of like, you love your work for like 5 seconds and then like you tear it apart. And I knew this going into it, because I feel like we do that when it's more personal to us. Sure. We're even harder on ourselves. So that's definitely something I've went through. Like I go and, you know, it doesn't matter what anybody else tells you, you look at it and you just start like picking things apart. And I almost kind of, I knew that going into this project, and my goal was like, just finish it. No matter how much you doubt yourself or like, you know, oh, that could be better or whatever, like you're just going to finish it. So yes, but like when you said like the shutter click, that last one, it's almost like every single shoot, like, okay, you've got all your material, you better have gotten something good, because, you know, you just did a lot of work to produce this. So yeah, no pressure. There's
zero pressure in it, really. I mean, the thing
I know.
Is, at the end of the day, right, we can always rip apart what it is that we're shooting or freak out that I didn't. Every single shoot that I do, whether it's personal branding, whether it's fine art, whether it's commercial, whatever it is, at the end, I'm always like, oh my God, I didn't get a fucking thing. Like, I am not a photographer. I should give them their money back right now before I even look at the images, because I just know I didn't get anything. And then I start looking through them. I'm like, you know what? These ain't half bad. Maybe I can make a career out of this.
I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's like the cycle. But I mean, there's got to be like some comfort in that, though. At least there is for me, because when I start feeling, and I'm the same way, I'll do raw reveals with people, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is gonna be like, I'm nervous, but I don't want to let them know that, obviously. But and then every time it's like, oh, these are really good. I'm not bad.
And this is it. Like, I'm not the piece of trash that I thought I was when I woke up this morning and cried in the shower. You mentioned something a few minutes ago, Blitz marketing, and I want to talk about that. Because, again, I see so much of myself in what it is that you're doing. And when you said Blitz marketing, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what that is. And it hurts to even think about, because I will come up with a brand new idea, start chasing dopamine, and get all in on it. I'll market the hell out of it for a week. And then for no real reason, I just start marketing it. And then I try to pick it up months later and it does the same thing again. I get super jazzed about it and then I let it fall. And this happens for literally everything that I do. Is this something that you struggle with in terms of marketing, social media, content creation, your campaigns, running your business? Like, do you struggle with that or does that come naturally for you?
No, I absolutely struggle with that. Like, yes. And, and I wonder, like, and I didn't think about this until we were just having this conversation really, but like how we were just talking about the cycle of like just the shooting process with a client, like, oh, okay, I got him in the books and like you shoot him and it's like, oh, this is going to suck. And then you're like, oh no, it was actually really good. And then, I think that's kind of what I do in that marketing. Like I start off with the idea, like you said, get really excited about it. You market the hell out of it. And then it's like, it's kind of that moment where you're pulling your card out to put in your computer to look at it like, oh, is this a bad idea? Like, did I just waste a whole bunch of time and energy? And so then that's kind of when you fall off that marketing horse and you don't, you know what I mean? Because very rarely do you get like people like freaking out over your offer with just like a few days of that week of marketing, like your first week of marketing. I mean, sometimes, yeah, but like a lot of times, no, it takes a little bit of consistency for people to see your stuff and to care. So yes, I definitely do that. I think one of the things I'm very guilty of, and I don't know if it's good or bad, it could be a great way to handle this is, there's that like it's a meme about ADD people, which I am ADD. I think you are as well. A lot of us are. If you have multiple projects, you can procrastinate on project A by working on project B, and then you can procrastinate on project B by working on C. So like I've noticed I kind of do that with my campaigns or with my offering, like I'll market the tarot and then I'm like, oh, I don't know. And then I'm like, oh, Boudoir, that's the one I'm excited about. And then I'll market that. And I just procrastinate on the one by marketing the other. Oh, yeah. It's kind of been helpful.
Well, did you ever do the wealth dynamics test?
Surprisingly, it's like the only one I don't think I taken.
Maybe not. So for those of you out there that don't know, the wealth dynamics is just another personality test, mainly centered around your connection to money and how you create and what you do and, the type of energy that you present. So for me, I'm a mechanic star mechanic. Basically what it means, long story short, is I like to create the ideas. I like to get them going. I can see the whole playing field, but I don't like to see anything to completion. I just want to create the idea, hand it off to somebody and go. I just create. Your personality seems similar to mine insofar as you like to come up with all these ideas. The follow through to execution might fall apart every now and again. My creativity and my output is far outpacing my ability to keep up with it. So I keep coming up with ideas and creating things and courses and videos and podcasts and photography ideas and campaigns and all of that. And I get them going and I get super excited and I start marketing and do all the, coming soon, big announcement newsletters and all that sort of stuff. And then it just kind of falls flat. So I've been thinking more and more about outsourcing, hiring a PR agency or marketing agency or something along those lines. Have you ever done anything like that?
You are just like kind of you're reading into my situation here way too accurately. Yes, no, I agree. And I'm very much like that. I wrote down wealth dynamics because I need to take that. I'm all about the personality tests. Yeah. I love it. And I just had a meeting. I have had a couple meetings over the past couple of weeks with different companies that do VAs and hire, outsource the VA work. And I've done that in the past because I'm aware that there are some things that are just, I would be much more efficient if somebody else took care of it. That was a process in itself. Like, what do you give the people? What do you have to have control of yourself as a creator? You know, all of those things. So I am looking back into that with, more clarity this time, but definitely I'm somebody who needs. So I think a lot of these personality tests, if you really look into them, they can be very accurate. And if you've taken multiple ones, they kind of say the same thing, just in a different way. They just have a different set of labels to go with it. And one of the things back when I was in education, one of the things that we did was I would personality test my class to see like how they learned, and I would tailor my class to the dominant type, right? And so during that, I discovered that I'm a ZYX person, not necessarily. And I think you just described the same thing. What makes us brilliant is we can have these ideas and we can see like where the possibility in them. We could see where they could end up, like how exciting. But, you know, like the ABC might be great and the XYZ might be great, but that LMNOP, like we get lost in those steps. And if we just had somebody, for me anyway, like to bridge just that middle part, but then getting like, what does that middle part look like for you is I think the trick. But yes, I'm very much like that. And with outsourcing, I know I'm trying to balance it with keeping it lean. Like I don't think I want a huge team. I think I want to keep it to where I can be nimble, like with my ideas and pivot when I want to. But yes, you know, some kind of agent, something in there would be very helpful.
I'm telling you, and this gets me thinking, I'm like, maybe I'm sitting on the $1 million idea right there, Matt. And I just start creating this photography marketing agency, right? And I've seen a couple out there and I just keep sitting back going, maybe this is the calling. But again, this is the problem that I have. Come up with an idea, fill a gap, create the company, start the LLC, get it going, and then be like, oh, shiny new thing over here.
Right.
I'm kind of like you. I have a very hard time giving up the control. And I know that that is something that a lot of people struggle with, especially as you start to grow and scale. Then you just don't want to give up the control because no one can do it as good as you do it, right? And I found this when I was managing, and it's not dissimilar from teaching, really, just managing people. And how good are you at doing that? I know for me, I'm a great leader. I'm a great inspirer. I tend to micromanage because I love the details and I like being in it. But I recognize that in myself. And it's difficult for me to hire a VA or someone to outsource because I want to spend so much time explaining to them how I want things done. And they're probably already bored listening to me when they're like, yeah, dude, I got it like 20 minutes ago.
That's the other thing. Like that's an excellent point too. Like in the time it takes me to get them on the same page as me and where we're going with this, could I have done this myself? And, you know, just because I don't, you know, it's those tasks that it's like I can do, but I don't necessarily like to do, or they burn me out, are the ones that I feel like I struggle with most. Like accounting or something like that. Yes, no, I'm not even trying to do that stuff myself. I can't get rid of that fast enough just because it's like it stresses me out. But like video editing, I've changed my philosophy on a social media marketer, somebody that, you know, trying to speak like you. That's kind of, and especially if you're going in the avenues of speaking and educating people, that's kind of the hurdle I'm at now too. Getting the right person in the right place. And is this actually time efficient?
And I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think there's are they a good fit personality wise? Are they a good fit for my company? Are they efficient? What are the things that you're looking for? And does this person fill that role? A lot of times they might not be us, but they might have absolutely all the skills that are needed to fill that job. And we just have to divorce ourselves of the commitment to whatever that task was and let them grow with it and let them take it to, you know, a different height. You'd mentioned a minute ago, too, that you were in education. I forgot you have like dual masters, right? You have masters in education, humanities, photography, farming, chickens. Like,
I actually don't have a degree in photography. Like one of my first electives I took back in 2002, 2003, something like that, was darkroom photography. But then at the end of college, it was between photography or folk dance. That was what was going to hold me up from graduating. And so I took photography and didn't take it seriously. And then I was photographing like flowers and dogs, and people were like, shoot my wedding. And I'm like, that does not make sense. Your wedding's kind of important. Let me talk you out of it. But like, you know, and that's just kind of and after about a year of that, I was like, oh, this photography thing is a thing. I'm making money. Maybe I should go learn to be a photographer. And that's when I went out and saw like what real photography was. You know, this is another thing I think with a small town. And you can tell me if this is your experience. But like, it's very easy to be the big fish in a small pond. It doesn't take much for your people around you to be like, oh, you're so good at this. You know, you can slap a filter on there and they're like, I think you're amazing. And that's kind of how it was like. And it just, my head got big about like, oh, I'm a good photographer. And like I went to educate myself and my self-confidence just plummeted. And it was interesting because I started out like selling at a much higher price. And then like 2 years into it, I was like, went from like $500 to $50 just because it was a direct reflection of like how I felt about my talent and capabilities. But yeah, photography was just kind of like that side hustle while I got my quote unquote real job. That's why I collected, it was the recession. So it was like I had my bachelor's in a useless field. I had like a bachelor's in communication. And it was like, I'm in this small area. Like, what am I going to do? It was the recession. So just like, just go keep getting more expensive papers and maybe one day it'll work out for you. And that's where I was actually. So my last round of graduate school, I was going to teach college full time. That was the goal. And everything was set up. And I even had professors retiring that I could, was in line to take their job. A few weeks before I graduated, they changed the law that you had to have a terminal degree in your specific field. So now to teach Speech 101, I needed a PhD and not a master's degree at a community college, right? Like to teach freshman success full time, I would need a PhD. So the school was like, hey, just start a PhD program. Like go pick something easy. Go pick creativity. You can get a PhD in creativity, PS. And they're like, we'll treat you like you're full time. You just have, so many years to complete this PhD. And that was right around the time I was, a few years into like Super Ice, the, educational platform. And I was seeing everybody like, having all this success and doing the things. And I thought if I go down the PhD, if I go back into that, like I knew how time consuming it was going to be, that I might never do this. I wouldn't have time. And so I was like, well, if I fail at this studio thing, then, academia, I guess, will always be there. I'll just go back, but let's try this first. But yeah, so that was the first time I really took it seriously, when it was just like, I was in that moment, like I was getting ready to teach full time and really commit myself to that. I'm so glad I did.
And you've been doing this full time how long now?
This will be my 6th year. Yeah.
I'm in the same boat with portraits. This is my 6th year shooting portraits. I started photography around the same time, 2010. And it's crazy to me that it's only been, 5, almost 6 years since I opened the studio, and how much time is covered between then and now. And to go back to your earlier question about the small town, big ego, right? 100%. Once people started seeing a different type of photography, then it was just like my head went like this and like this, like this. And it's very humbling when you go outside your little world and you realize that you're not even a big fish in a little pond. You're in a serving spoon. Right. And that's about it. I know every single year, no matter how good I feel I am, whenever I go out to a Portrait Masters or WPPI, I see that next level and I'm like, there's a long way to go. And it's that healthy ego check that I think we all need. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your work and loving what you do, but there's always people that are better. And I guarantee you 99% of the people that are better, you're never going to see on the wall at a competition because they're just out doing their thing, making beautiful art.
This is such a good thing, a good topic. I love this because what you're saying is so true. And I think there's a lot of freedom when you realize that these people, like in your mind, you're creating these pedestals. Like, yes, it could be obvious and everyone around you is agreeing that their work is fantastic and maybe better than yours, but is it really that competition, right? Like your clients aren't looking at you like, oh, well, you're not this guy or you're not this girl doing this. That's all in your head. And those people that you have placed on those pedestals aren't going around like, oh, well, she sucks. Like, why do you even pick it? Because somebody who's made it that far, you're right. They're not even caring. They're working on themselves. Like they've got their blinders on. They are not giving a shit about you and what you think. They're just creating and bettering their, what they're just doing their thing. And I think there's a lot of freedom when you realize that. But I feel like every time you level up in anything and you just see that like next mountain, like you think you're climbing to the top and like that's all it is, but then once you're at the top you see the next mountain that's even bigger than that one, and now there's like this whole valley in between you've got to get to do it's a whole and but that's just the cycle, you know. But I also think it's important, like when like you were talking about, like, you know, you take the pictures, your neighbors figure out that you have an eye for pictures where they tell you you're amazing, and then you realize you're not amazing, and you go through that whole thing. So we're about on the same timeline, 6 years. I bet you could, like, I like to think that 6 years ago that I would look up to the person I am now, you know, and like the level my artwork has improved just in the past 6 years. Like, I'm still one of those people, even though that goal has now been moved, you know, and I see that next mountain I got to climb. I still have to, like, remind myself, like, 6 years ago, you would have freaked out if you were doing the stuff that you're doing today.
I couldn't agree with that more, right? And we forget that all the time. We forget, I know when I'm looking for something to post on social, a lot of times I used to have this really hard carved in stone rule that on my Instagram feed, you will never see a repeated picture. Because I know some people, you know, they recycle photos and whatnot, different captions or even the same caption. And I've had this source of pride. I'm never going to repeat a picture on Instagram, because everybody that goes to my feed is going to scroll for days and look at every single picture and realize that they're all different and just hold me in such high regard. And no one ever fucking did any of that. But I also gave up on that a long time ago by saying that perfect, what am I going for perfection for? I found it was to impress other photographers so that I could get accepted into their tribe and be considered an actual photographer, rather than focusing on the clients that were just kind of like, wow, this is better than my Uncle Harry could have done it. Let me pay you for this service, and focusing on nothing but clients, right? Instead, I was trying to focus on me and ego and all that sort of stuff. I think Sue actually said it great. Same mountain, different altitude, right?
Oh, yeah.
Same mountain, different view, right? Basically, the thing is, you never stop climbing, but your view might be a little bit different from every place. So when I do look back, I look at the work, and there is a lot of empathy for where I was. And I do have to remind myself and say, yeah, I could not have imagined in 5 years I would be doing what I'm doing now. Are you like me insofar as every 5 to 7 years I've got to blow up my entire life and start over?
Oh my gosh, Matt, we're like the same person.
So I know I'm bumping right up against that 7-year wall, man. So.
Yes. I think that's just kind of natural in this place we live in, this universe that we live in. There is something, especially like that 7-year. Sarai and I had this conversation, and we were talking about year 5. You know, everybody talks about year 5 in business. 5, 7, 9. These are all like huge numbers that we see like in that metaphysical sense or in a spirituality sense. But it's so true. I wonder if we feel it more, or if it's more applicable to us because we are creatives, and and just by nature we are kind of in tune with something a little bit different. Like, you know, we just do things different. We think differently. Like, they can see this. Like, this is, you know, nobody's disputing this. Right. And so I think because of that difference, maybe we're a little bit more in tune with things. The last Portrait Masters, the one in September, Sue's talk was about, like, you don't have to burn. You build it, you don't have to destroy it. And I mean, I was just crying through the whole thing. And my friend Kelly, she's there. She's a photographer, and we've had a lot of close talks about this. And she's just looking at me because this was our whole Voxer conversation for a year, because that's what I did. This was my last year for me. Last year was probably one of not the best year I had in business. It wasn't the worst, but probably since I've opened my studio, it was very difficult because I was in that like burn it to the ground mentality. And I was giving my power away. I was giving this value. I mean, it was just, I was in a really weird mindset. And so I had the conversation with Sarai, and she was like, yeah, my 5th year was hard too. And I've talked to other artists, and then now you're saying this. So this has got to be just a thing, but hopefully we don't have to burn it down.
Yeah, I think for me, what I find is every 5 or 7 years, I realize that I've mastered whatever it is that I've set my mind to. Now I'm bored and my brain needs a new challenge. Every 5 or 7 years, there's something that happens, and I realize if I look back at all of that, I just get to a certain point of mastery or comfort or familiarity with whatever it is that I'm doing. and I need to continue to challenge myself. Rather than getting better at that one thing, I just want to do something new. So, hey, like, this has been great. I've learned how to do all the electrical in my house. Now I'm going to learn to play the guitar. And now that I've learned to play the guitar, what would be awesome? I'm going to get into lowering flatbed trucks, and I'm going to bring those to, you know what I mean? Like, it's so random and weird, but these are the things that I get wrapped up in. And it keeps things interesting, I suppose.
That's what I was going to say. It keeps things interesting. I don't know how to exist any other way. Like, I would be, and I spent many years like kind of not really liking that about myself. Like, if you could just focus and if you could just stick to this. Yeah, because I feel like that's a lot of the traditional feedback we might get up until recently. I do think a lot, over the past 10 years, at least from the people I've experienced, or maybe I've just now got on that vibe. I don't know. But like, it used to seem like, okay, this is the way to do it. You have to focus down. You have to have this one thing, stick with it, whatever. And now it's just like, but do we really have to do that? Who wrote this rule? Like, can I challenge this? Right. And that's actually been something, it's been like a mantra or affirmation or whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm working on changing this belief that I can make money, good money, at whatever I'm having fun with. So don't pigeonhole me into like, I'm just the photographer. And it's not, nobody's doing this to me. I'm doing it to myself, right? No one's coming up to me like, you can't do this because you're a photographer. It's just me. So, and I think it comes to this root of, when we were growing up, like people probably, I'm assuming if you were this artistic little Matt, but bouncing around, like, can't sit still, maybe you're into this, now you're into this. Somebody has probably came along and told you that this is the wrong way to do it. And even though we're not hearing it continuously now, that belief is still hardwired. If you've heard that as a kid growing up, like, I guarantee you that belief is still somewhere in your system and you're at odds with it. So that's been something. And just because I'm aware of it, it's not like I wake up every day like, oh, I'm changed, I'm cured. Like, it's definitely a process changing something, especially that ingrained.
Yeah, totally. And as you're saying that, I can hear it in the voices of the people that said it to me, right? In trying to label you with an identity. People want an easy box to put you in. And societally, we are, like you said, ingrained to have that one title, that one identity. So it's very easy for us to say in our tribe, I am the photographer. I am the hardware store owner. I am the tarot card reader. I am this thing. And what I've loved about watching you over the past couple of years has been all of these different sides of you bubbling up alongside the photographer. Watching these different sides of your life grow in addition to your photography business has got to feel really good to see this all kind of coming together and doing what it is that you love and that what you're stimulated by. Do you feel more at ease now than you did 5 years ago?
Yes and no. As you were talking, it made me wonder, you're talking about the label and, society, or some people want to maybe just stick us in this box. I wonder if sometimes we, or at least like I do that to myself, when we're talking about that roller coaster of marketing new ideas or jumping on that. And if you kind of dig down deep, that point where you stall out, when I find myself doing it, I try to look now, like, am I just really excited by this other thing? Or is there a fear or some kind of block here that I've run into that's making me look for the other shiny object so I don't have to address that particular block at the time, right? And so we find it like safe. It's safety for us too. Like whenever I go to write like a tarot book or I'm going to go speak about this or whatever, and then I have that imposter syndrome, which I know everybody faces, and it makes me want to shrink back to, oh, that's right, I'm just a photographer. I'm safe here in my little photographer box because it's comfortable and I know I can be successful here, right? Because I've already proved it. And so when you see like these other areas kind of becoming more public with or putting them out there, it's what you're seeing is really, I think, maybe me adopting more of that belief of like, I can have fun. Like, I have no plan for the gardening. It would be cool if it's a book. It'd be cool. Like, can we make gardening coaching a thing? I don't know where this is going. I'm just trying to have fun and just believe that I can make great money doing whatever it is. I try to deconstruct like how I've became a photographer and did all this stuff, when I first got people's attention, I never had to go out. I didn't make a decision one day to be a photographer. Now the next thing, go find the clients and go do this. I just photographed things that made me happy. I was breaking every rule because I didn't know the rules, and what I came out with was a style that made it distinguishable from all the other photographers at the time. And I never had to market at the beginning. I didn't have to market till I got my brain in it. Like, oh, how do we make money doing this? Like, I'd already been making money, but once I started trying to do it, it became more difficult, right? So I think there's that pressure there. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Like, I got started by just having fun. What other things can I start by just having fun? But I do think that sometimes we shrink back because that label is comfortable for us as well. Because it is scary doing different things or letting people know you're into more than one genre or thing, like lowering truck beds or what, like, why is that so scary?
I hear myself talking to clients all the time about personal branding, and let's bring you out and all the different sides of you. Let's bring that out in these images so you can have them for whatever side of your personality. But if you're going to take pictures of me, I only have one personality. I am photographer guy, right?
That's so true.
You know what I mean? When I don't just turn it around and put it on myself. Oh, photographer, podcaster, musician, crafter, gardener, like home renovation guy, like all these different passions of mine make me a much wider personality than just a podcaster, just a photographer. And it's really hard sometimes for us to embrace our own stuff, for us to believe our own bullshit, if you will, and just basically be like, yeah, there are different sides to us, and we need to create that more cohesive personal brand for ourselves, because if we are going to be trapped in making content all the time, I want that on my resume somewhere, right? So I think what we're both finding is that when we get a chance to just sit in the moment and have fun, that we find peace, that we find happiness. And the question for me is, why am I not finding that in everything that I'm doing? Sue calls it being in alignment. If we're in alignment with what we want and we know what we want, then the how we get there doesn't really matter. We just have to focus on that what that we want. So I know for me, I get caught up in the how all the time. It's great. I'm going to be financially free. I'm going to be in love. I'm going to have this. I'm going to have that. How do I do that? I don't know. Fuck, I'm never going to get there. Let's shut it all down. Let me learn.
Right.
Right. So
yeah,
I think just the act of slowing down, feeling what feels good to us. Does this make me happy? Does it not? I've got to go through it to experience it and to make a judgment for myself. I love that you're doing all these different things. If we can figure out a way to build a more comprehensive identity with all of those, then perhaps you and I would be a bit less frantic. There's more to people's personalities, including ourselves, that we have to delabel and just accept as is.
Well, I think it's funny that it's almost like we're, staying away from being labeled in a box, but at the same time, it's like you're almost looking for that new box that accurately describes you, that you can feel safe in. So it's like, I'm not trying to call you out because I'm the same way. And I'm just like realizing this through our conversation, that it's like, we're like against these labels. But if we only had that label that accurately described us, we'd be okay with it.
Right. I'm such a...
But it's... No, I am too. I like you saying that. I'm like, oh my God, I do that. It just so happens that but would we even, if somebody could magically bestow like this accurate word that we're like, yes, this is, how long before we would try to destroy that box?
Right.
Right. Yeah, it would just be like, 6 years from now, like we'll be having our crash, like go ahead and mark it on the calendar.
I sit here often and I think about the direction that life is going. And I say, where is the next 5 years going? Where's the next 7 years going? What am I going to get bored of now? And am I making the right moves? Not to the point that I'm increasing my own anxiety, like I've got to make the right moves every day. But am I just kind of walking towards what it is that I want? Or is this, binging these 8 shows on Netflix for the next week of my life, is that getting me closer to the goals that I want? No, but it's making me feel real good right now. So I'm trying to find that balance between complete checkout and complete frantic activity. And somewhere in between those two has to lie happiness and peace.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to have that balance, work hard, play hard. Like if you're exuding that much energy for your brain creating things, like if you want to binge some Netflix, like I don't think there's any harm in that. If you're binging Netflix to avoid like something all the time, maybe, but there's something wrong with that balance. But I do think about like putting out courses and different things and walking in that area. And I know what I've done is cool. And I would love to, give other people that experience or, educate them there. And so I try to deconstruct that. And actually with my bonus kid, she's 26 and she's kind of going through this. Like I can see her and she's in this whole like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? Who am I? All the things. And I recognize that. And that was around the age I was when I started kind of taking photography more seriously. So I do try to deconstruct this. And you were just saying, like, what am I walking towards? And I don't know. If someone would have told me when I was 23, if you would have told me at 20, like, you're going to be a professional creative, a working artist, something, I would have, like, laughed in your face. That would have never, if you would have asked me to name 100 different things that I could grow up to be, that would have not made the top 100. Okay. Like, I know. If you would have told me the steps then, I would have been like, that's overwhelming and I can't do it. And I just kind of like meandered my way in, and whatever I was having fun, like I just kind of followed that, and it's probably terrible. It's why my course isn't out yet. Like, just have fun. It'll work out. That's it right there. That shit'll work out. Just have fun.
Well, I could tell you, I thought much the same thing, that putting together the courses and creating the materials, that would fulfill that part of me, that teacher part of me, that guide, that mentor. And having put it all together, getting it all done, starting to market things, putting it out there, I don't know how in love with it I am. I think I've been in love with the idea of it, but I don't know if I'm in love with the idea of everything that comes after it. Right? So yeah. The education, the coursework, the materials, I love creating it. Again, we're back to that creation and execution thing. Love creating it. At the same time, I'm like, could I be putting my energy somewhere else? Not to avoid doing the coursework, but if it's not lighting me up to 100% every time I go to do it, should I really be investing my time there? And these are the questions that I wrestle with all the time. Am I avoiding it because it doesn't light me up? Am I avoiding it because it's hard and my ego can't take it? Is there self-sabotage lurking in the back because you might actually succeed at this? There's so many different angles that I try to look at, and they're all valid to their own degree. Which one is right? I don't know. And so all I try to do is keep checking in. Does this feel good? Does this feel right? When I think about doing it, am I dreading it more than I am excited about it, right? If I've got a photo shoot on Friday, am I stoked that I have a photo shoot on Friday, or am I like, oh, fuck, I got to clean the studio, now I got to get things, right. If that energy that you're going into it with, why are you even doing the thing? This is what happens to me all the time. I'm constantly looking at how I'm feeling in the moment so that I know if I'm on course or not, if I'm aligned or not.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like that is kind of a full time, that's a lot of energy to constantly be scanning for, and I'm not saying it's not worthwhile. It's totally worthwhile. Like your life kind of depends on it, because if you're not looking for it, then, instead of finding out that you're not in love with course creation now before you've invested 6 or 7 years into it, like that's what I think maybe holds me back from some things, because it's like, do I want to realize this is a bad idea a decade from now or like a week from now, right? That takes a considerable amount of energy, I think, to constantly to have that awareness. Like, am I walking in alignment? Does this feel good? How does this really feel to me?
It takes a lot of caffeine and a lot of introspection, and it's really not that bad. I don't want to hyperbolize it and basically make it sound like I just sit in a small white room and I'm constantly thinking about my feelings. It's more, whenever I feel that little bit of resistance, I try to question myself.
Well, we just know, like, as creatives and has been doing this for as long as we've been doing it. And I'm sure you've talked to so many like other people, other creatives doing all different things. I feel like us being in that energy and having it light up is even more important than maybe some other industries might be. I mean, I would argue that it's important for everyone just as a human to live your life. But like, this is our livelihood and our life. It's like our work and our play. It's just who we are. And I think that's something that is unique to any kind of working creative, professional creative, is like your business is you.
What's next for you? Where can people find you and the tarot series and all of that? Where should people start looking for you online?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Jessica Malone Portrait, both pages. My website, Jessica Malone Portrait. You brought up, I do have the gardening channel. It's on Instagram. It's Not Your Grandma's Garden. Low-key shout out to all the grandmas that ever taught me to garden. So, and then the tarot series, I on my website, on those platforms as well. I have been toying with the idea of unveiling an Instagram just solely for tarot. So if that happens, I'll share that with you. But Jessica Malone Portrait, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that's mainly where I'm at.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm psyched that we finally got a chance to do this. I know we've been talking about this a long time, but
yeah,
I love having you on. And I know I'm going to write it down now. We're going to schedule something in March of 2029 and see if in 5 years we've completely changed our course, or if we're still doing the same thing that we're doing.
This will be interesting. We'll have to have like a 5-year reoccurring thing. Like, okay, check in. What do we want to burn down now?
That's much more accurate. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Matt, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
I'll talk to you soon.